Hello, dear lovers of ancient Roman history. With me, Yavor Ivanov. The next episode, which is episode number 5, we will talk about the Roman expansion and the Roman conquest of Europe, Africa, and Near East. And we're going to ask some fundamental questions and try to give the answer of these questions. Was it inevitable, the conquest of Rome? And what is the reasons for the Roman conquest of so many territories and in such a vastness and really magnificent expansion of the Roman state? I like to start with one very interesting book which tries to answer, and in my opinion it did answer these questions almost fully, even though the book is very small. It was published in 1979 and still is very much discussed in the academic world which it's involved in ancient Roman history. This book was like an atomic bomb in the society of the ancient Roman scholars, and caused in some ways in the intellectual level cause havoc there. But I agree what the author William Harris said in the book. He tried to explain the reasons why Rome could not stop expand. He pointed three main reasons for the Roman expansion and this inevitable aggression of Rome. First, it's the fear, the greed, and glory. The three main reasons behind the Roman expansion. The book is called The War and Imperialism in Republican Rome from 327 to 70 BC. The book is small, but really giving very, very clear answers and very plausible answers what is behind the Roman expansion. Rome feared many enemies. When it comes to, say, the Celtic people, which they were inhabited north of Italy, which later will be conquered by the Romans, after Venus almost destroyed Rome, Rome had fear of the Celtic people. Of course, that's not the excuse for Caesar to start war in Gaul. We all know that all historical facts point that Caesar was looking for excuses to conquer Gaul, and he spent really a long, huge time in Gaul to conquer it all. It took him 8 years to conquer all Gaul, so really extensive time for him and energy and effort to conquer the all Gallic tribes. So the war was between 58 BC to 50. So it took him 8 years to conquer it. But in this case, it wasn't the fear what was behind it. Caesar was looking for glory. He wanted to glorify himself in Rome. And the only way to glorify it and win the crowd, to win a big popularity, it's war and successful war and conquest. And he was able to do that with his magnificent talent and a really outstanding character. His will was iron, and he always followed his goals and always achieved them because of his ability, because of his very loyal to him army. And Caesar always prevailed, even though he was killed by his enemy, who he acquitted later in the civil wars, after the civil wars. So behind his conquest in Gaul, we can see that William Harris is right. He was looking for glory. All generals of Rome were looking for glory. Sometimes they fought to protect the state, and inevitably they had to annex some territories. But also, the war was a source of wealth, and many times even Caesar enriched himself, even though he was very giving and give most of his spoils from war to people from even in his when he died, he gave all the money he had, and most of them he gave, a huge amount of them he gave it to the people. So he wasn't greedy, but he got a lot of money, wealth, slaves from from Gaul, which helped him to progress his political career in Rome and finally to proclaim the dictator for life. So we'll see that William Harris' book is very plausible, the reasons he gave for the Roman conquest. And here is the question: was it inevitable Rome to expand? It was inevitable. It was inevitable because, how we saw in the previous episode about Mithridatic wars and Punic wars before that, Rome has to face these enemies sooner or later once they expand. Especially when it comes to the Punic wars, the two superpowers rose in the Western Mediterranean. So it was about question of a time when will the two super states will clash. And again, Rome prevailed, and Rome was the victorious one in this epic clash with the Carthaginians. So here, even in that war, we see the fear of enemy who is really strong, built a very solid state, and expands many territories in not only North Africa but in Spain. So Rome started this war from fear, but also some of the generals were looking for glory. And that's why sometimes they lost the battles against Hannibal, because some of them, they were rushing to victory, or just they were outmaneuvered with the brilliant tactics of Hannibal. So I like to go back again for these three reasons: fear, glory, and greed. Really, if we look closely, most of the wars Rome justified, it was behind the justification of this, because of these three reasons. Also, Rome changed a lot in the 3rd and the 2nd century before Christ. In Rome, in the 3rd century and the 2nd century, few families become really powerful. They had all the wealth, they had all the political influence and power. So Rome, they were looking for to outmaneuver the other families. They were struggling for power. And when you struggle for power, you're looking for more money, for justification, to glorify yourself, so you become more popular in Rome. The most outstanding families we know from that period who really become powerful, and really they hold most of the power in Rome. Not only there were some from this family was elected the consuls, but also this family holds a lot of wealth and political influence. And without them consent, your political career couldn't go any further. You could have really get a great position or strong and higher position in the Roman state. Outstanding families is the Corneli, the Mentli, the Fabi, the Amili, the Valeri, the Metelli. Metelli become as well very powerful from once 284 BC was elected one of the members as a consul. From then on, they really slowly but surely start to gain huge power, and they were really becoming one of the most powerful families in Rome. And in the 2nd century, we can see that without them alliance or friendship, it was difficult for anybody to move on in his political or any career in Rome, even in religion or in the military and so on. Also, in the 2nd century, we witness, and in the 1st century as well, BC, that the society in Rome is changing, and it's changed dramatically. A lot of peasants, a lot of them Roman citizens, lost them piece of land to these rich families, and these rich families start to use more of the force of the slaves, the labor of the slaves, and they created so it's called latifundria or latifundrium, for plural is latifundria for so they create these huge farms which they mainly use as labor slaves, which were more they were cheaper than the previous period, and they were more accessible because Rome was starting to expand. So these forces, these powerful family. They were looking for more conquest. They were looking for more land. They wouldn't say simply no to if a lot of them come across opportunity to glorify themselves and make themselves even richer. So these socio-economical changes also added to this force that pushed Rome to expand more and dramatically, and to become one super state that the human history won't witness again. So these social changes, they led as well to this endless, almost conquest of Rome. So in the end, Rome will conquer and will turn the Mediterranean Sea as an inner sea, and all around the whole Mediterranean territory will be under the control of the Romans. So even though some historians and scholars of ancient Roman history agree, or a lot of them partly agree or disagree with William Harris and his book, how I said, it was published in 1979, War and Imperialism in Republican Rome from 327 to 70 BC. Even though they disagree or partly agree with it, I strongly agree. And if you really look closely, not only this period he was referring in his book and giving examples, that Rome actually, Pompey later, Crassus, they behind them conquest and wars they were leading. They were leaders of the Roman army. Really, these reasons were behind it, or at least one of them. Pompey died. We know Pompey had a very successful wars in the east and also in Spain. But for example, Crassus started a war with the Persians only for one reason: to glorify himself. He was already rich. He had a strong political influence in Rome. We all know that he helped Caesar with his career in the beginning. That's why they were part of the first triumvirate. And so he wanted to reach the glory of Caesar and Pompey, because they weren't as rich as him, or Pompey maybe close as rich as Crassus, but they outshined him. Pompey and Caesar outshined him as a great generals, and they had behind it really epic victories and conquests behind their backs, and they were already very famous generals and very recognized all across the Mediterranean, not only in Rome. So Crassus had the money, but he didn't have the glory that his two political partners had. So that's why he started, because he was looking for glory, the war with Parthia, which he really found some not very justified reasons to have a war. And unfortunately for him, he lost his life there, and his son barely escaped. So again, William Harris was right. Rome, behind the expansion of Rome, there were three main reasons: fear, greed, and glory. And the answer for the fundamental question, Rome could have been stopped them conquest. The answer is no. Only that conquest stopped when the Roman Empire extended to such a huge extent in Germania, and when they met really fearful resistance, real fearless resistance in the east. When they faced the Parthian Empire, yes, they were successful a few times, especially Trajan, the emperor, but in general, they were a natural barrier for them to expand any further in Asia. And also in Germania, in the 2nd century, the 3rd century after Christ, the German tribes unified. They become much bigger and stronger tribes. The historian tried to answer the question how this happened, because in the 1st BC and the 2nd BC, Rome was facing much smaller tribe and more friction among the German tribes than the 2nd century and 3rd century. 4th century Rome were facing really conglomerate of really strong German tribes, which they were another natural barrier in Europe for Rome to extend its territories. And Africa, the desert, was the natural barrier for Rome to expand any further in Africa. Even though we all know that Nero sent an expedition to what is now Sudan, and he has probably something in mind to conquer it and make a bigger, to extend the trade with these territories. But finally, that was abandoned. The expedition, it did happen, but any further conquest or extension of the trade with this territory ceased to exist and to be wanted by the further emperors of Rome. So I hope I answered these questions, because I think the expansion of Roman Empire, and as the empire expands and become a superpower in the world, they influence the world. They influence our daily life today. So it's important to know, did Rome could stop its extension and the extension of the state and the expansion? And I hope I answered this 2 or 3 fundamental questions in this episode, and I hope you enjoyed it. And it was a pleasure again. I hope you enjoy it, and please hit the subscribe button and the like button if you enjoy this episode number 5.